during a hot spring vacation with my in-laws and my brother-in-law's family. I was suddenly shocked when my 8th grader daughter, Nova, confided in me that she was pregnant. Right after, I received a call from the hospital. Nova and Hudson had been rushed to the emergency room. The police's explanation took my breath away. Please listen calmly. The two of them attempted a suicide pact. What? I felt the blood drain from my body, and I began to tremble uncontrollably. It's impossible, that gentle Hudson would never do such a thing. Seeing Hudson and Nova safe only strengthened my belief. Then, my sisters-in-law arrived at the hospital. While Hudson, Nova, and the in-laws were away, Lily came over and whispered to me. She thinks just fooling around with her boyfriend got her pregnant. Silly, right? My eyes widened in disbelief, and Lily smirked. I gave her a fake pregnancy test, and she totally freaked out thinking it was real. The sight of her going pale and sobbing was hilarious. Anger heated my body as I watched them laugh. I won't forgive them. Lily and my sisters-in-law. They'll regret making me truly angry. I'm Chloe, a 48-year-old housewife. My husband, Hudson, also 48, and I have been married for 17 years. We have a daughter, Nova, who is a sweet and gentle girl I'm proud of. The three of us spend ordinary days laughing at variety shows on TV, or cheering loudly when an idol appears on a music show. However, one day, our mundane life suddenly crumbled. Hudson has an older brother who lives with my in-laws in a neighboring town. My brother-in-law and his wife have a daughter named Lily, 2 years older than Nova. She's a pretty girl, much like her beautiful mother, but spoiled rotten due to her parents' doting. Despite my reluctance, Nova and Lily, being cousins and attending the same elementary and middle schools, inevitably spend time together. We live in a small rural area where, during major holidays and the end of the year, the whole family gathers at my in-laws. My in-laws are wonderful people who adore Nova as much as they do Lily and look forward to their growth. However, I've disliked my brother-in-law and his wife since the beginning of my marriage. Both are graduates from one of the nation's top universities. My brother-in-law, employed at a major corporation, constantly looks down on Hudson, who works at a smaller company, calling him dumb and poor. His wife, a stay-at-home mom, brags about her leisurely lifestyle on her blog and offers me pity since I work even after marriage. But what's unforgivable is their mockery of Nova. Poor girl, born to such poor parents. It would have been better if she were born cuter. And every time we meet, she boasts about Lily's looks. Our daughter is so beautiful, even the kindergarten thinks so. A modeling agency approached her. But we won't send her to such a small place. In group photos, it's sad for the other kids, they just end up being Lily's backdrop. Spoiled and adored by her parents, Lily grew up acting like a queen, and her behavior was always a thorn in my side. Here's an example of what happened. After Nova was born, I went back to work full-time following my maternity leave. On weekdays, Nova would be at after-school care, and on the rare days I worked weekends either Hudson took care of her, or we had the in-laws watch her. As Nova got older, she could stay home alone for short periods, and I would leave for work. I had made a promise to Nova. Whenever I left, I would always send her a text with my destination and ensure to return home before dusk. Nova was good about keeping our agreement, so Hudson and I trusted her and let her be independent to a certain extent. However, there were times when Hudson and I would get home for dinner, and Nova still hadn't returned. She'd usually been dragged around by Lily. When I checked the GPS, she was usually at the nearest shopping mall. When I called Nova's cell, a troubled voice would answer. Mom, I'm sorry. Lily is insisting on playing more games, and she won't listen. My frustration grew with her feeble response. An hour later, when Lily and Nova returned, I gave them a lecture. You two are still in elementary school. How long are you going to keep running around? Then Lily replied in a sassy tone. Auntie, I'm being nice by playing with Nova. You should be grateful. Lily then took the bag she had given to Nova to carry and went home. Later, I learned that once again, Lily had made Nova pay for everything from drinks to lunch. When Hudson called his brother to complain, he arrogantly responded, "It's just a little money. Don't be so cheap." Spoiled Lily isn't liked by other girls, so no one else really interacts with her. She'll keep ringing the doorbell if you pretend not to be home, and even if Nova says she has homework and can't go, Lily will insist, just for a little bit, and drag her out anyway. We were at our wits' end, but being relatives, there was only so much we could do about pushing Lily away without causing more issues. As Lily entered middle school, she began to view Nova with increasing hostility. One winter evening, after school, Lily stormed into our house yelling, "Nova, don't you dare talk to that boy without my permission." "I'm sorry." Nova timidly apologized at the doorstep. "My friend likes him and wants to confess before we move. I was just there to support her." "Ha, are you sure it's not you who likes him?" "No, that's not it," Nova shouted back, unusually loud. I dropped what I was doing with dinner, rushed from the kitchen to the front door, and stepped between Lily and Nova. "Lily, that's enough. Don't interfere, Auntie. This is discipline." Lily's eyes narrowed. "Nova has no business talking to boys on her own. She's too plain and should just keep quiet." Despite her striking beauty, Lily's harsh personality was all too apparent. While Nova might not be called beautiful, her shy smile is notably charming. I absolutely cannot tolerate her being ridiculed like this. "Hey! There's a right and a wrong way to speak to someone." I lost my temper and raised my voice. "Just go home! And don't you come back here ever again!" As I yelled, Lily smirked. "But Nova's gonna be attending my school next year, right?" I was at a loss for words. Nova, who dreams of becoming a translator, is set to attend Lily's high school next summer. It's the only school in the county with a sister school in Spain and a well-established exchange program. "I'm looking forward to you being my junior next year." With a malicious smile directed at Nova and me, Lily left. Although Lily's attitude was troubling, surprisingly, Nova seemed unfazed. "Lily is in the general program, right? The international section is in a different building, so I hardly see her." Indeed, the two school buildings are on separate campuses and quite far apart. Students from different programs rarely interact unless they're in the same club. Nova, who has loved Spanish from a young age and has honed her skills through essay competitions and research conferences, sees attending this school as the first step toward her dream. She can't afford to be bothered by every one of Lily's snide remarks. However, as the new year began, I noticed that Nova was visibly losing her spirits. She hardly ate, and when spoken to, she seemed distracted. At first, I thought it was due to her upcoming exams and late nights at the tutoring center. But occasionally, Nova would look at me as if she wanted to say something, then stop herself. "You look a bit off lately. You're pale. Is something bothering you?" When I asked, Nova forced a smile and shook her head. "No, it's nothing. I'm just nervous about the exams coming up." "That's fine, but remember, you can talk to me about anything. I'm always here to help." "Thanks." Nova looked troubled but stubbornly kept to herself. Even after she entered her desired school, her mood didn't improve. "Anything happen at school?" I asked, but she weakly shook her head. She spent most weekends locked in her room, only coming down for meals, which she would leave mostly uneaten. Hudson and I were growing increasingly worried and considering whether we should take her to see a psychiatrist. That's when Hudson got a call from his brother. "A spa trip? Oh, and there's a wildflower festival too?" Hudson switched the speakerphone on so I could hear as I prepared dinner. "Look, Nova, you got into Lily's high school, right? And your birthday's coming up too. Mom suggested we combine a birthday and school acceptance celebration. Let's all go eat something delicious." Hudson's brother's explanation made sense. It was a unique idea typical of a mother-in-law who sends a birthday card to Nova every year. A meet-up and part ways locally. Other than at dinner, each family can do their own thing, like going to the beach or visiting the wildflower fields. That sounds good. I'll talk it over with Nova and get back to you later. I put off giving an answer and hung up the phone. At dinner, when I mentioned the trip to Nova, her vacant eyes sparkled slightly. Is there a private family bath? Yes, there is. You can bathe while looking out at the sea. The ocean at night is quite romantic. When I showed her the mobile images of the spa resort we'd be visiting, Nova's eyes widened. Can I take a bath with you, Mom? Of course, you can. Then I want to go. That's how the hot springs trip with the in-laws and my brother-in-law's family was decided. Unfortunately, it wasn't straightforward. The sea breeze caressing our faces and the vast fields of wildflowers did little to lift Nova's spirits. She watched coldly as my brother-in-law's family excitedly took numerous photos of Lily with their phones. Even the wildflower gelato and croquettes we ate on the cafe terrace brought a smile to her face only for a fleeting moment. Soon after, she reverted to her somber expression. It seemed that only when we were alone in the family bath could I wait for Nova to confide in me. That evening, gathered in the spacious dining hall, we enjoyed fresh seafood with the in-laws and my brother-in-law's family. Congratulations on your acceptance, and happy birthday! The underage Nova and Lily poured orange juice into their glasses, toasting with the adults' beer. High school already, huh? Time flies. Looks like Nova will finally be Lily's junior. Encouraged by the in-laws' smiles, Nova also seemed pleased. Even my sister-in-law and Lily, in front of the in-laws, held back their usual snide remarks. After dinner, as promised, I joined Nova in the family bath. Wow, it's beautiful! I exclaimed, looking up at the night sky. The round moon shone brightly, its reflection glimmering on the sea surface. However, Nova still looked gloomy. After a while, she began to speak heavily. Mom? What is it? I asked, pretending to be calm. I think I'm pregnant. What? I asked, confused. Nova spoke in a small but clear voice. It looks like I'm having a baby. I stared at Nova so intensely it felt like I could bore a hole through her. Tears welled up in her eyes and spilled down her cheeks. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. Calm down, I told myself. In the midst of the confusion, I asked, have you taken a test? Been to the hospital? Nova weakly shook her head. The test was positive. I haven't been to the hospital yet. Then let's go to the hospital after the trip ends. It might be a mistake. Nova looked at me, surprised. Mom, you're not angry? Getting angry won't help anything. I responded as I drew Nova's head close and gently stroked it. Thank you for telling me. You must have been very scared and anxious, right? Nova began to sob violently. It was heartbreaking. And I felt like crying too. By the way, Nova, can I ask who the father is? It's obvious, but there has to be another party involved. I had no clue who it could be. Nova flinched and struggled to speak. I'll tell you everything, just give me a little time. All right. Let's talk about it when you feel ready. I said, careful not to get too emotional. For now, we'll go to the hospital once we're back from the trip. And figure things out from there. Even if Nova ends up a single mother, Hudson and I will support her, and we'll manage somehow. As Nova went off to the gift shop, looking a bit relieved, Hudson came back from the bath. When I told him about the pregnancy, he was more shaken than I was, but we reached the same conclusion. I had no idea Nova even had a boyfriend. I'll casually ask about it tomorrow. Hudson said thoughtfully. It's hard to imagine our careful daughter doing something reckless. She might have used the pregnancy test incorrectly, I added. Yes, please ask her about it too. Either way, we decided to stand by Nova as her parents. The following evening, after a lavish meal, Hudson invited Nova for a walk along the beach. It was Chile, so they wore robes over their yucatas as they headed out. As I sat on the wide porch looking at the full moon and the night sea, Sipping liquor we bought at a convenience store, my phone suddenly rang. Answering it, I heard from an emergency medical technician at the city hospital. My heart raced with a bad feeling. "Your husband and daughter have been brought in. Can you come immediately?" I nearly stopped breathing. Grabbing just my phone and wallet, I rushed out of the lodging and into the car. I can't remember the drive, but before I knew it, I was at the hospital. Sitting on a dimly lit hospital corridor bench, in front of a door lit by a red and treatment lamp, I was approached by the police. Showing me their badge to confirm my identity, they spoke in a stern tone. "Please listen calmly. The two of them attempted a suicide pact." "What?" "It appears your husband pushed your daughter into the sea, then jumped in himself." I felt the blood drain from my body as I started to tremble. "That must be some mistake. There are actual eyewitness accounts," they said coldly, causing me to nearly panic. "But upon further questioning, we've heard other accounts. We are investigating those now." After asking me a few more questions, the officer left. Shortly after, the emergency room doors opened, and Hudson and Nova appeared. "Hudson, Nova, you're safe!" I attempted to rush to them but collapsed to my knees, overwhelmed with relief. Nova, seeing me cry, began to tear up as well. "Mom, sorry to worry you. Both Dad and I just have some scrapes. We were rescued by a local fisherman right after we fell. We swallowed some seawater and lost consciousness for a bit." Hudson's gentle smile reassured me. He could never have done such a thing. It was all a misunderstanding. Both had bandages on their arms and legs from scrapes against the rocks. But fortunately, they only had bruises. CT scans showed no abnormalities. "That's right, Mom. There was no baby." "What?" I blinked in surprise as Nova said shyly. "We had it checked when we looked at everything else. Turns out, I'm not pregnant. It was just a late period. Sorry for all the fuss." Relieved, Hudson and I exchanged looks and laughed. "Well, that's a relief." As we were about to leave, Hudson's parents and brother's family, who had rushed to the hospital, arrived. While Hudson's brother was yawning, the parents were relieved to see Hudson and Nova were fine. While my brother-in-law was yawning, Hudson's parents were relieved to confirm Hudson and Nova were safe. While Hudson and Nova went to settle the bill, and the in-laws headed to the gift shop, Lily and my sister-in-law stealthily approached me. Lily whispered maliciously in my ear. "Nova is so silly, right?" "What?" "She thought she was pregnant just from fooling around with her boyfriend." "What a naive brain." Lily smirked at me. "I gave her a fake pregnancy test, and she totally freaked out thinking it was real. The sight of her going pale and sobbing was hilarious." So, they were the culprits. The moment I realized what was going on, I felt a rush of anger. Clenching my jaw and glaring at Lily and my sister-in-law, I struggled to contain my rage, especially difficult to do in a hospital. I've been manipulated by Lily far too many times. Being cousins, I didn't want to cause too much of a stir. And there was a faint hope that we might get along since we're close in age. But I've reached my limit. I won't forgive this. Lily, my sister-in-law. They're going to regret making me truly angry. The next day, after finishing breakfast with Hudson and Nova in the dining hall, I went home to pick up something. Returning to the inn, I called Hudson's parents and his brother's family to our room. "What's up?" "We have to check out at noon. We're busy getting ready to leave," my brother-in-law said grumpily, having rushed through his breakfast. Seeing Hudson and Nova together seemed to irritate him, and he smirked. "Hudson really did a number, huh? I mean, I'd be shaken up if Lily were pregnant, but I wouldn't throw her into the sea. Dad would probably beat up the guy instead." "Yeah, that's more likely." They laughed while Hudson's parents looked on sadly. "Stop that. Hudson would never do such a thing." "Well, you never know when someone might snap," I said sharply to my brother-in-law. "Where did you hear that rumor, brother-in-law?" "Huh? Some fishermen cleaning the beach said they saw it yesterday." Right, Lily?
Yeah.
Lily replied cheerfully.
Last night, when Mom and I were walking, the fishermen were talking. They saw a man and a girl arguing, then the man pushed the girl into the sea and jumped in after her.
That must have been Hudson and Nova. Someone must have seen them and started the rumor, my sister-in-law added. Did you tell the police that? She nodded. Of course. But Hudson, you told the police you didn't do it, right? After we got back from the hospital, the police came again, and Hudson and Nova explained everything that happened last night.
Of course, I didn't push Nova. I told the police that.
Hudson explained wearily. But there's an eyewitness account. Nova, someone pushed you, right?
It's true I was pushed, but there's no way Dad did it.
Nova insisted. I understand you want to protect your family. By the way, isn't the chairman of Nova's high school board living in this town? I asked, causing Lily and my sister-in-law to stiffen. Really? I didn't know that.
Aunt Sophia, you're so knowledgeable. Amazing.
Their reaction was as if they couldn't believe I knew it too, which was almost comical. Last night, after we returned from the hospital, Nova and I did some investigating with the fishermen while helping them pick up trash. At my words, Lily and my sister-in-law exchanged glances. Clearly shaken. They hadn't expected us to go to such lengths. It turns out the rumor that Hudson pushed Nova into the sea was spread by a beautiful mother-daughter duo who aren't from around here. My sister-in-law muttered, restless. With an unusually firm tone, Nova spoke. I've thought about why they would do such a thing. They probably wanted to spread bad rumors so I would be denied admission by the school. My mother-in-law frowned.
So, it was the work of someone who bears a grudge against Nova? But this prank is too cruel. Hudson could have been accused of assault.
My father-in-law said angrily. I explained.
Perhaps they thought the police would clear the suspicion. As long as the school denies her admission, they would be satisfied. Their real goal was to harass Nova elaborately, right?
I glared at Lily and my sister-in-law, causing my in-laws and brother-in-law to look on in shock.
When Nova came to you two for advice, you pretended to care and set her up with this nasty prank, making her think she was pregnant, didn't you?
What?
Nova thought she was pregnant because of what Lily did? What did you two do to Nova?
My in-laws demanded, but Lily and my sister-in-law just turned away sulkily. From the looks of my brother-in-law, it was clear he had known nothing about it. Realizing they had no escape, Lily and my sister-in-law sighed and reluctantly confessed. Yeah, we were just messing with her. We never thought she'd believe it. They said, snickering. To think that a kiss or a hug would result in a baby. That's the knowledge of a kindergartner.
I knew it. I just wanted to confirm that it was only my period being late. But both of you seriously told me that's definitely a pregnancy.
Nova explained desperately, her face red.
I have a boyfriend but knew it couldn't be true. Probably just stress from exams making me feel unwell. I talked about it because I thought, as women, you'd understand without making Mom worry. You insisted it was morning sickness.
Lily and my sister-in-law listened to Nova's story with smirks on their faces. Fuming, I shared what I had heard from Nova.
Nova told me that you said some people might get pregnant just from a little contact with the opposite sex. Why not check, just in case? And you made her use a joke pregnancy test?
Recalling that moment, Lily and my sister-in-law burst out laughing. We never thought she'd take it seriously. It was hard to keep from laughing. It was so fun watching her usually composed face turn blue with panic. As Lily and my sister-in-law rolled on the tatami, laughing uproariously, I glared at them with hatred.
Nova trusted you when she came to you for advice. Why would you treat her like that?
Lily looked at me, her mouth twisted in disdain.
I've always hated her. Being cousins, she's always been compared to me. She was class representative, won first place in the Spanish speech contest, and she outshines me academically, even though she's not pretty. She's too presumptuous.
She spat out the words with contempt.
I told Nova not to tell Aunt Chloe because Mom and I were going to the hospital, but yesterday, I heard Uncle talking to Nova in the hallway. What did he say? He said, it might be bad for your health, so let's take a short walk and then come back. When I realized she betrayed us, I was furious.
That's right. That's why we spread the rumor that Hudson pushed Nova into the sea. My sister-in-law said in a gleeful tone. In a small town, the news would surely reach the headmaster. I thought it would be great if she got rejected from the school she always wanted to attend and was crushed by despair. Lily added with a high laugh. Disgusted, I said.
But you know, pushing someone into the sea is a crime, right?
Oh, we would never go that far, right, Lily? Exactly. Do you have any proof? They responded confidently. Smiling, I said.
Eyewitness accounts have come up during our inquiries. What? You're kidding, right?
Lily and my sister-in-law were visibly shaken. It's true. 2 women with long hair were seen sneaking up behind Hudson and Nova.
It's a case of mistaken identity.
My sister-in-law quickly exclaimed. That won't work.
You two stand out, especially since it was a full moon last night and very bright, right?
Turning towards the doorway, I called out, and 3 burly, deeply tanned fishermen nodded.
What? When did this happen?
My sister-in-law and Lily panicked. Unperturbed, the fishermen spoke up.
Yes, it was definitely those 2. They're the beautiful mother and daughter, hard to miss. They said the father had pushed his daughter, and were shouting for someone to call an ambulance.
The men nodded in agreement.
They were making quite the scene, loudly telling everyone who came by that the father, angry at his pregnant daughter, had pushed her into the sea. And they were asking if the headmaster of the academy really lives around here, one added.
Watching Lily and my sister-in-law, memories seemed to flood back vividly. The fishermen revealed even more details than they had told me.
Stop blabbering!
But it's the truth.
That's right.
Lily and my sister-in-law gritted their teeth in frustration.
It's ironic how your boasted beauty has backfired in such a way.
I remarked as I thanked the fishermen and sent them off. Glancing around, I noticed the usually mild-mannered in-laws simmering with anger. After a moment of silence, my brother-in-law voiced his suspicion.
I knew you two despised Nova, so I'm not surprised by this.
He tilted his head.
What's the matter? You know, I was just thinking how convenient it was that you had a joke pregnancy test on hand. I didn't even know such things were sold online.
Lily also questioned her.
I was wondering about that too. Hey Mom, why did you have that thing?
Suddenly, my sister-in-law's face stiffened.
Well, of course, I bought it to use on Dad. But you always say one child, Lily, is enough, don't you?
Well. My sister-in-law stammered, and I thrust a bundle of photos at my brother-in-law.
It seems there's a demand for your wife, aside from you.
As my brother-in-law looked at the photos, his eyes widened as if they might pop out. He snatched the photos from me, along with documents from a detective agency, and spread them across the large table, scrutinizing every detail. In place of the speechless brother-in-law, Hudson let out a voice of dismay.
Come on, what are you doing, sister-in-law?
Peering over, the in-laws and Lily were also staring, shocked. No wonder, as the photos clearly showed my sister-in-law smiling as she entered and exited a hotel with a young man.
I saw my sister-in-law going into a hotel last year. That's when I hired a detective agency to investigate, thinking it might be useful.
My sister-in-law glared at me furiously.
Sneaking around spying on people, you really have a nasty personality.
Oh, I can't hold a candle to you, I retorted as she sneered disdainfully. And decided to brazen it out. You're just as foolish as Nova.
What did you say? Pretending to be elite, yet you didn't even notice I was cheating left and right. Do you think it's impossible because you're so confident in yourself?
Vanity can be frightening, she taunted, exuding arrogance.
What are you dissatisfied with? Unlike Hudson's place, I haven't made you want for money, and we have a beautiful daughter. You're living as a housewife just as you wished. What more do you want?
My brother-in-law erupted in anger. Looking at him with disdain, my sister-in-law was unflinching.
You're 51, and I'm still 42. I married for money but regretted it immediately. It's a waste to be tied down to just one man when I'm still young and beautiful. Don't mess with me!
My brother-in-law bellowed, seething with rage.
Should we get a divorce then? Fine by me, but Lily will choose to stay with me because she loves Mom more than Dad, right?
She said with a triumphant smile.
I've been pretending to be pregnant and fooling men into giving me plenty of money. That pregnancy test is really handy. Being seen at the scene where the two were dropped into the sea was a miscalculation, but testimonies alone probably won't be enough for an arrest.
At that moment, I stopped the recording on my phone app. I immediately called the police.
Hello, this is Chloe. Yes, the person who pushed my husband and daughter into the sea has confessed. I have recorded proof of it.
After hanging up, I turned to my sister-in-law, who was still in shock, and smiled.
By the way, the investigation also revealed something else. It turns out you've been approaching your lovers claiming you were pregnant to extort money for surgery. That is...
My sister-in-law stumbled over her words. But with the audio clearly recorded, there was no escaping it now. After a brief silence, she managed a forced smile.
I just remembered I have something to do, so I'll be heading home first.
As she opened the sliding door, she was met by 2 police officers.
Oh, where are you going? You're under suspicion of assault, and there are also allegations of pregnancy fraud against you. Would you mind coming with us to the station? Assault? It was just a joke when I dropped them into the sea. It was low tide, after all.
The police calmly subdued her protests.
All right, we'll hear the rest at the station. Miss, you too. What? Me too?
Lily was stunned.
Multiple witnesses saw 2 women approaching the mother and daughter. It was all Mom's plan and doing. I had nothing to do with it.
Lily declared defensively. My sister-in-law exploded.
Are you trying to pin this on me? We'll discuss this at the station. Let's go.
The police urged, and led my sister-in-law and Lily out of the inn.
Why has it come to this?
My brother-in-law muttered, collapsing to the floor. Hudson looked on sympathetically.
You've always let Lily do whatever she wanted because you were smitten with her. And you never said anything about your wife's nightlife. You brought this on yourself.
Hudson pointed out. Usually quick to retort, my brother-in-law just cradled his head and groaned. After my sister-in-law and Lily were taken away by the police, our family and the in-laws checked out of the inn. While the distressed brother-in-law headed straight home, we enjoyed the rest of our trip by visiting a lighthouse and a historical monument. Contrary to being upset, it seemed the in-laws had always harbored bitterness toward Lily and my sister-in-law's selfishness.
They need a good scolding from the police,
my mother-in-law said, with my father-in-law nodding grimly. Whether it was one or both of them. Lily and my sister-in-law had accused each other. But eyewitnesses confirmed they both had a hand in pushing Hudson and Nova. Although Lily was detained, Hudson and Nova did not wish for severe punishment, so she was sternly warned and sent home. My sister-in-law also received a suspended sentence and had to pay damages to Hudson and Nova. However, she faced multiple charges of marriage fraud and showed no remorse, resulting in a 3-year prison sentence. Naturally, my brother-in-law divorced her. Lily ended up with her father. And despite her previously well-behaved facade at school, her true nature was revealed, resulting in her expulsion. Afterwards, without working and just living off money given by the in-laws, and when that ran out, pestering her father for more, her days became filled with arguments. Since the incident, Lily has ceased bothering Nova. After a severe warning from the in-laws that any further trouble would lead to disownment, Nova is now more cherished than ever by them. Nova continues to excel in her studies and enjoys typical dates with her boyfriend. As for romantic relationships, many challenges may lie ahead. But when Nova faces troubles, I swear to be there for her, to offer advice as a woman should.